Welcome to Tale of Deception, where you can share this compelling narrative. It might resonate with someone. I used to regard anniversaries as hallowed events. Now I understand they can serve as instruments. And this is the account of how my wife transformed our 10th anniversary into a humiliation ceremony, and how I converted her triumphant lap into the most wretched evening of her life without uttering a single raised voice. A decade together. An entire decade of marriage. In the eyes of many, Lauren and I embodied the epitome of a perfect couple, a relationship that others at social gatherings such as barbecues admired and strove to emulate in their own lives. We were blessed with a house in the suburbs, parallel careers in tech consulting, and joint gym memberships. From an external perspective, we appeared to be triumphing. However, this facade belied the silent demises that occur within a marriage when one person ceases to view the other as a partner and begins to perceive them as an accessory. This shift began 6 months prior to our anniversary. Lauren had been consistently staying late at social events that failed to generate new business for us. Upon returning home, she exhibited an unusual level of energy, which our evenings together hadn't typically provided. Her phone, once carelessly left on the kitchen counter, now resided in her handbag with notifications muted. I am not oblivious, but I am also not the type to invade my wife's privacy like a detective in a subpar film. Instead, I waited, I observed. I gave her the advantage of the doubt due to the trust built over a decade of marriage, the presumption of goodwill until it is disproven. However, evidence surfaced 3 weeks before our anniversary. I've been pondering dinner plans, Lauren mentioned during coffee one morning. She was employing her casual tone, the one that usually signaled a decision she had already made. What if we tried something different this year? She suggested. In what way? I asked. What if we invited others, turned it into a group affair? Her evasiveness and inability to meet my gaze were clear warning signs. Friends, let's keep it small and private, perhaps no more than 6 of us. I put down my mug. Lauren, we haven't had a group anniversary dinner before. That's the whole idea behind an anniversary, isn't it? It's for us. She hesitated and adjusted her thoughts, then said, Jude will be in town that week. We haven't seen each other in years, and it would be nice to catch up. Jude is Jude Whitmore, my college ex-boyfriend with whom I had a 3-year relationship before I met you. The man whose name occasionally slipped during arguments, hinting at my perceived unfulfilled expectations. You're suggesting we invite your college ex-boyfriend to our anniversary dinner? She retorted defensively. He's married. His wife is wonderful. It would just be a reunion with old friends. Does he know it's our anniversary dinner? She was silent, and her silence spoke volumes in response. Lauren, that's preposterous. Only if you feel insecure about it, she snapped back. Jude and I are history. If your issue is my past, that's on you. Your gaslighting attempt was skillful. It seemed I became the antagonist when I declined to celebrate our decade-long marriage with the man she once shared a bed with. But I saw through her game. She wanted me to forbid it so she could portray me as controlling, justifying her secret activities. Fine, I responded. Invite whoever you wish. The eagerness on her face should have raised suspicions, but I was preoccupied with my own plans. I spent the following week, like any reasonable man in my position, delving into Jude Whitmore's present life. Social media proved to be an easy starting point. Jude had married Ruby Chin 4 years ago, a practical and stylish architect according to her photos, but most significantly, she was heavily pregnant, approximately 8 months, based on her recent Instagram posts about nursery preparations. I stored that data aside and subsequently engaged a private investigator named Cortez, not out of choice, but necessity to clarify matters. If my marriage was already in ruins or if Lauren was merely testing limits, I required his meticulous findings. After 5 days, Cortez reported, Your wife and Jude Whitmore have been meeting for coffee every fortnight at the same downtown indie coffee shop without surveillance cameras, specifically in the back corner. Their encounters last between 60 and 90 minutes, but there's no evidence of any physical contact beyond hand-holding. I once saw them exchanging a kiss in the parking lot. Nothing more overt in public. My stomach churned, but my expression remained impassive. Regarding his wife, there was no sign she was aware, as she works from home, her pregnancy's largely confining her indoors. Whitmore claims he's either at the gym or running errands. I compensated Cortez for his services and requested thorough documentation, dates, times, locations, photographs. I desired a file extensive enough to be choking. Subsequently, I performed an unexpected act, contacted Ruby Whitmore. Hello, Ruby. This is Blake Morrison. Although we're not acquainted, I am Lauren Morrison's husband. I suspect your spouse and mine attended the same college. A brief silence followed. Jude mentioned he had a longtime friend in the neighborhood. Everything all right? Everything's fine indeed. In truth, I'm phoning because my wife is arranging a small anniversary gathering on Saturday, and she has extended an invitation to Jude. I was hoping both you and Jude could attend. It would be unfortunate if he were the only one without his partner. A longer pause ensued, during which I heard her contemplating. That's quite considerate, she finally said slowly. Jude did not mention an invitation. Ruby mentioned it seemed impromptu on her part due to work commitments lately. But please, let me emphasize I'd be delighted to meet you. My wife often recalls Jude's college days fondly, and it would be wonderful to put names with these stories. Incidentally, Ruby is 8 months pregnant. I understand if it's inconvenient for you. We can keep it brief. Just dinner, honestly. I softened my tone here and expressed genuine sentiment, expressing that having someone else present who's married to a friend group member can make nostalgic gatherings feel more inclusive when one wasn't part of the original group. You'd be doing me a favor. Ruby, being considerate, agreed. I didn't inform Lauren about inviting Ruby. Keeping it a surprise was part of the excitement. At an elegant Italian restaurant, dimly lit with cozy tables and a pricey wine selection, Lauren had arranged a dinner with Jude and 2 other colleagues from her office, acquaintances I barely knew. I had arrived early and manipulated the seating arrangement, placing myself at the head of the table, Lauren and Jude opposite each other, reserving the seat next to Jude for an unexpected guest. Lauren appeared, looking radiant in a new dress and freshly styled hair, a level of elegance she hadn't maintained during our date nights in months. Jude arrived 10 minutes later, catching sight of Lauren across the room. Their eyes met, and they both smiled. Blake, Lauren called, beckoning me over. Meet Jude. I shook his hand, firm grip, self-assured demeanor, the type of man who effortlessly commands attention. Nice to finally put a face to the stories. All hope they're good ones, Jude commented with an air of familiarity. Primarily, I responded, watching him interpret that. We found our seats as other couples joined, engaging in casual conversation. Lauren kept stealing glances at Jude, what she thought were discreet looks, which he reciprocated. Maintaining a neutral expression, I checked the time. Ruby arrived promptly at 7:15, her 8-month pregnancy making her stand out. As I expected, scanning the room, Jude seemed bewildered, not aware of his presence here. Ruby. I stood up swiftly, beckoning her over. I'm thrilled you could come. Have a seat next to your spouse. The table fell silent. Lauren's expression flitted through emotions too swift to name: confusion, anger, fear. Jude paled. Blake invited me, Ruby told him, still perplexed. He mentioned it was a dinner to celebrate an anniversary, inviting you as well, but preferably with your spouse present. Correct, I responded effortlessly, drawing out her chair. I believed it would enhance the festivity for everyone to invite their significant others. Lauren finally spoke up. Blake, I forgot to mention, didn't I? My apologies, dear. I thought I told you. I returned her smile, composed and deliberate, conveying through that gesture that I was aware of the situation and it was premeditated. Turning to Ruby, I inquired, You're an architect, aren't you? Lauren and I had been contemplating incorporating a home office, and I was eager to pick your brain. I seated myself, offered Ruby water, and ensured her comfort. The dinner was agonizingly delightful as Lauren and Jude struggled to maintain a casual demeanor in front of his wife. They were unable to gaze at each other without Ruby noticing, and avoiding eye contact made their evasion conspicuous. Each joke they shared withered on Lauren's lips, and every tender memory was swallowed before it could sound too intimate. 15 minutes into the meal, Ruby asked innocently, So how do you two know each other again? The question had nuclear implications. College, Lauren replied promptly. We dated for a while years ago. Ah, Ruby responded, and I observed her mentally reevaluate everything. The way Jude had referred to him as an old friend, the fact he hadn't mentioned this dinner to her, and the proximity of Lauren's hand to Jude's water glass. Jude interjected hastily. Even though it's old history, of course but 10 years is a significant time, people. And relationships evolve, don't they? Lauren fixed her gaze on me. Don't some things remain constant, though? She glared at me. I took a sip of my wine. The appetizers were served. Ruby squirmed in her seat. When did you two rekindle your relationship? She asked Lauren, her voice casual but precise, like a lawyer asking a question. We've been having occasional coffee meetings, Lauren replied. Just keeping in touch. How frequently? Ruby, Jude began. I'm just curious, Ruby said, still looking at Lauren. It's wonderful when people preserve old friendships. How often do you manage to catch up? Lauren hesitated. Perhaps once or twice a month, I corrected. Actually, every other Wednesday at the coffee shop on 8th Street, the one without security cameras. The table fell silent. Ruby turned to Jude. You told me Wednesdays were for your personal training sessions. Yes, I did. I do, Jude stammered. And sometimes I have coffee afterwards. Ruby's tone remained calm, but her hand rested on her abdomen, protectively. With Lauren, it's not as you assume, Jude stated, to which Ruby queried. Then what am I assuming? No one replied that. She signaled the waiter, ordered another bottle of wine, prolonged the silence to make them feel ensnared, as every word would either be a deception or an admission. There was no safe response. Blake, Lauren said, her voice strained. May we talk privately? Why is that necessary? I inquired. Aren't we all friends here, simply enjoying each other's company and celebrating 10 years of marriage? Nothing to conceal. Her eyes were pleading now. She knew I had orchestrated this gathering. She was aware I had invited Ruby intentionally, but she couldn't accuse me without revealing why it mattered, without admitting there was something to disclose. Ruby rose gradually, one hand on the table for support. Jude, we're departing, she stated. Jude, please, we're leaving. Her voice faltered. Now, Jude was powerless. His gaze lingered at Lauren one final time, not out of affection but tinged with resentment, as if she had somehow brought this upon herself by her mere presence. They departed. Ruby exited with an air of dignity, hand protectively on her abdomen. Jude trailed behind like a doomed man. The table remained silent in shock. Lauren's colleagues fixed their eyes on their plates. I completed my wine. Well, I remarked, this has been delightful, but I believe it's time to conclude our evening. Dinner is on me. I settled the bill, exchanged perplexed nods with the colleagues, and left without Lauren. She returned home 2 hours later. In the living room, I held a glass of scotch and Cortez's entire surveillance report on the coffee table. She accused me. You set me up, pointing at the folder. I invited your lover's wife to our anniversary dinner. You had it coming. I countered, brandishing photos, records, and messages. I have evidence of your infidelity. Defeated, she sat down. It wasn't supposed to go this far. It was just emotional cheating, just nostalgia that got out of hand. She explained. He understood me in ways you don't anymore. Admitting to our broken relationship, she said. Our marriage has been over for 2 years, and he was just an excuse. I want a divorce. Surprised, she looked at me as I confirmed. I want a divorce too. She pleaded, don't talk about couples therapy or working it out, but I had already made up my mind. The divorce took 4 months, with Lauren trying to claim emotional investment in our house. My sharp-witted lawyer, Barrett, dismissed the argument and presented evidence of the affair, leading to Lauren leaving with her car and half our savings. I kept the rest, and Ruby filed for divorce 2 weeks later. After the birth of a healthy girl, Jude now visits his daughter under supervision while paying considerable child support, receiving a thank you card from Ruby post-settlement with a note reading, You helped. I didn't help out of kindness. I helped because I needed her there to shatter Lauren's fantasy. Despite both divorces being finalized, Lauren attempted to rekindle things with Jude for 6 weeks before their relationship disintegrated. Seems affairs don't flourish when one is forced to cultivate a genuine relationship instead of stealthily pursuing it. Jude harbored resentment towards Lauren due to the complications in his life stemming from her pregnancy, while she resented him for not being worth what she had sacrificed. The relationship ended bitterly, as per mutual acquaintances reports. I sought counseling from a therapist specializing in trauma caused by betrayal, who helped me discern between my wife's actions and my personal value. It took time, but eventually, I understood the distinction. A year passed, and I sold the house, overwhelmed with memories. Instead, I purchased a more modest abode near the city that felt truly mine rather than ours. Subsequently, I resumed dating, taking my time, and establishing clear boundaries. Since then, I have refrained from celebrating another group anniversary dinner. People often question if I have regrets about how I handled it, whether I should have privately confronted Lauren before the drastic move, or if inviting Ruby was harsh. Here is what I discovered. Some individuals will continue to take from you until you demonstrate the price. Lauren believed she could carry on her affair, her marriage, and her anniversary celebration all simultaneously. She underestimated my resolve, thinking I would be too hesitant to challenge her or too enamored to resist. Contrary to expectations, I did not shout, plead, or deliver a theatrical confrontation that she could later reinterpret as me being dominating or unstable. Instead, I ensured the truth surfaced at a time when deception was impossible. Was it revenge? Perhaps. Perhaps. Yet it was also about clarity. For me, for Ruby, for everyone present believing they were witnessing an ordinary reunion. At times, the strongest action one can take is to cease shielding individuals from their own decisions' repercussions. Lauren occasionally messages me, expressing remorse, explaining herself, inquiring if we could talk. I don't reply. There's nothing more to discuss. She sought someone who would endure disrespect, someone with whom she could share affections from her past, while I desired a partner who would daily choose me, the way I chose her. We were never going to fulfill each other's needs. The anniversary dinner made it impossible to ignore this truth. To those observing and questioning whether they're overreacting, being too sensitive, or if they should simply let go, trust your instincts. If your partner values another person's feelings over your self-respect, if they ask you to tolerate disregard under the guise of security, or manipulate you into believing that your limits are the issue, you're not delusional. You're simply in a relationship with the wrong person. I remained silent as her face paled, because occasionally, the most crushing power play is refusing to protect someone from their own actions. Lauren sought an audience for her affair. I provided one, albeit not the intended one. That's the distinction between relinquishing control and reclaiming it. If this narrative strikes a chord with you, share it with someone who could benefit from hearing it. And bear in mind, anniversaries are designed to commemorate what you've cultivated together rather than highlighting what you're losing independently. This is Cheating Story Lab. Thank you for tuning in.